I'm really excited. Julie and I are here to talk a lot about sponsorship and mentorship. We actually connected on LinkedIn and realized we don't talk a lot about both of these topics, or we don't know the difference between sponsorship and mentorship. So we really want to take the chance to introduce that to you. So welcome, Julie. Thank you so much for hanging out with me.
Thanks.
Can you tell me about yourself too?
Absolutely. So I'm Julie Gesson, and I'm the Vice President of Operations at Schweiger Dermatology Group. We're a large medical practice in the East Coast. So we're both from the East Coast. As you said, we connected on LinkedIn, have very similar things that we're talking about, and it's great to connect today.
No, I'm excited. Would you mind sharing with us a little bit about your idea of what a mentor is and how you found your mentor?
Absolutely. So my mentor today was not my first mentor. I've been through about 3 or 4 different mentors. And in each stage of my career, I found a different mentor to help me. And really what a mentor is it's someone generally with experience, and that could be any kind of work experience, doesn't have to be direct, who is giving you both advice for you as a person, as an individual, professional and personal, and helping guide you through some of the decisions that you're going to make, as well as your reactions to whatever's happening. So sometimes I would come to my mentor and explain a situation that they have nothing to do with, but they would say, no, this reaction is normal, or for a growing business or where you are in your career, or you know what, that let's dig into that. Maybe there is something else going on. So that's kind of what a mentor has been to me. They've always been outside of my organization, not working with me directly. And I found them in lots of different industries. So my current mentor works in finance, and they mostly are working with brands, food brands, customer service brands, clothing brands. So completely different to what I do. But at the end of the day, we have a customer. And my mentor has been able to talk to me about building organizations that deal with customers. And so that's been really helpful. But what I would love to know from you is the difference, really, what a sponsor is versus a mentor, and how you found a sponsor.
Yeah, I think it's a few things that you said were really interesting to me. So I wanted to talk about that for 1 second first,
Sure.
because you mentioned how the evolution of mentors that you have, it's not the same one as you've always had, which I think is really interesting because sometimes, especially when I work with clients who are entry level, they think, oh, I have to find the mentor and this person is going to be there for me at all times. And I often mention to them, like, it's almost a board of mentors. Find different people in different spaces who serve different purposes. So I love that you didn't look for somebody specifically in dermatology, because it's not about that necessarily. It's about customer service, and that can be from different spaces. So I think that's just really interesting and different to kind of think about, and how you triage different ideas. And you were saying also that the mentors outside of your organization, and I see sponsors as people being inside the organization. So people who essentially are there to move barriers away from you, pull you in their office and say, hey, hold on, I'm going to contact this person, or this job is posted, let me call this person or reach out or do this. So I see them as being your advocate within the organization. And I would say one of my previous supervisors was that person for me, which was actually really crucial to my development, because I came to them saying I wanted to learn, I wanted to grow, I wanted to do something else. And we sat there and worked together to create a plan. So a mentor would have helped me walk through that plan or create that plan. And then that sponsor actually gets things out of the way to help me move up in that space.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. So one of my examples of a great mentor was a peer, even a peer who was working at Google. And so your idea of a board of mentors is absolutely spot on. So I have a friend who was working in their career at Google and started talking to me about their job and individual contributors and managers and how Google sets that up. Now, she didn't personally go into Google and create that. So I took that concept, took it to my organization, but then found a different mentor to say, how do you go from a organization that has no structure like this to what Google has? And you find different people along the way, and it really helps know what decisions you can make and what you can't make. So I think creating that plan, as you did with your sponsor in your organization, is going to take those mentorship concepts and bring them, pen to paper to exactly what you're doing. Absolutely.
And I'm curious too, because oftentimes I know I was scared to get a mentor. I don't feel like I really had one, especially when I was very early on in my career or in school. People talked about this hypothetical word. How did you find your mentors? Was it, I mean, you mentioned one being a peer. Did you go up to somebody? Did you email? How did that work for you?
That's a great question. So, a few ways. First, I told a lot of people I was looking. One of the
Okay.
biggest things I think that people forget is that they're not necessarily going to come forward and say, "Oh, I'm happy to mentor you," or "I'm happy to sponsor you in your
Mhm.
organization." But I raised my hand and said, "I'm looking for someone." I was young in my organization. I was a female, and I was coming from a little bit of a different background. I knew I had to find something that wasn't necessarily here. So I
Yeah.
asked a lot of people, not necessarily to be my mentor, but do you have anyone you could connect me with? And it was short. It was for a 5 minute conversation, for a 10-minute conversation.
Yeah.
I can, stop and grab coffee and come into their office or something quick like that. And so it was kind of like online dating where you went on a lot of calls and to
Yeah.
really also figure out if it was going to work for them or work for me. And I knew immediately I would find these people I thought were amazing and I'd get on the phone with them, but it would be 15 emails back and forth with someone to schedule it. And then on top of it, it was like a very quick conversation. I said, "This is great. This is such an intellectual, wonderful person, but not a mentor for me because
Yeah.
I'm not going to feel comfortable just reaching out to them." So I think let people know you're looking because it may not be them, but it may be someone they know. And then also do a lot of kind of quick intro trials because I think anyone in the first 5 to 8 minutes of a conversation will know, okay, this is a person I connect with, or you know
Yeah.
what, it feels a little strange and maybe not right now. But always keep those contacts open. And I end every single conversation, whether I think it's a good fit or not, with if I have any questions, concerns, or thoughts now or even distant in the future, can I reach out to you? Because I've come back to them and said, hey, by the way, I'm looking for this role. Do you know anyone? So I've used them for hiring. I've used them for
Wow.
leadership training, different things than just my mentor.
I
But
love
what
that
about you?
question.
Yeah.
I was just gonna say I love that question. I think it's so cool, and it's something I never thought of to ask at the end because sometimes I get hesitant. Okay, we don't have a connection, not a big deal, but maybe they know someone, but I might need a question answered later. Like I really like how you end that because then I
Thank
think it
you.
puts you at ease a little bit more if you do have a question in the future, and it's okay if it doesn't work out in that space. I'm gonna have to use
Yeah,
that. I like that a lot.
absolutely. One of my other, this is a very strange one, but I'm happy to share, is I work with different vendors, different softwares, and everyone is continually kind of coming through that, I'm sure. And I do a lot of reference checks. And some people think
Yeah.
reference checks are like 10 minutes, waste of time, they're annoying, you have to schedule them. I use them as opportunities to do exactly what you just talked about. So I'll be on a reference check for something, whether it's an employee that I'm hiring, whether it's especially like vendors, softwares, because everyone's kind of using it the same. And I'll start to talk to them about what they do and where they are in their career. And I'll immediately say, let's continue talking, whether it's about this product or this person or not. Like, let's continue to do this. And so that's actually how I found someone a little bit earlier in my career, too. So anytime
That's
you get on the
cool.
phone, it's an opportunity.
I think that's cool too because you wouldn't have met that person otherwise. You have no reason to call them. It's like that easy in to start that conversation. And it's funny because when I used to do more career coaching, I would tell my clients, talk to your hairdresser, talk like those are the people who see people every day, a dentist, say you're looking for jobs. They have more of an insight in random people, random stuff.
So
You
true.
give people their business card so you can get your name out there a little bit. That's really
Yeah.
cool. I never even thought about using that as your in to find a
Yeah.
mentor.
So I'm really curious because you mentioned a sponsor that you've worked with. How did you connect with that sponsor and then continue that relationship?
I think with a sponsor, with a mentor, they're mentoring you and working with you and helping you groom into a more professional. A sponsor may be helping you do that, but to me, I felt like I had to prove myself professionally. In order for somebody to sponsor me and advocate for me, I felt like I had to do my due diligence, give 110%, be the person that I could be, so they would have faith in using their references and using their resources to bring me up. So my sponsors have usually been supervisors or colleagues in a different department that wanted to bring me into their area and kind of remove barriers that way. But I think a sponsor, you have to prove yourself first because
Sure.
I believe they want their word to mean something. They want to be able to ask for a favor and it actually means something kind of in the end.
And how did you go about, so feedback, getting feedback directly is something that I think a lot of people have
Yeah.
questions about how to ask for feedback and be able to take feedback. And having a sponsor, I think very much is also about someone encouraging you, but also about taking, feedback. So how have you navigated that with your sponsor, and how do they give you feedback?
It's a really great question because I think, especially I work with a lot of organizations who are having difficulties giving feedback or communicating across generations, specifically with millennials and Gen Z, and then we have baby boomers and Gen Xers. And it is tough, I think, to ask for feedback. Oftentimes we want it, we don't know how to ask for it. And I think I used to think the praise, like this praise sandwich was awesome. Tell me something great, tell me something you need to fix, tell me something that's great. But I oftentimes just remember the thing that needs to be fixed at the end of the day. And I think if you're asking for feedback or you're being put in a position where somebody is giving you feedback, it's a gift. It's something they're trying to share. It's something they're trying to help you learn and grow. Now, it depends on the delivery of that message, right? I think it depends on how that person relays that message to you. But at the end of the day, they're usually on your side. They usually want the best from you, the best for the organization. So take that and ask questions. If you're not sure, share an example of, ask them, tell me a time when this happened, or share an example about this. Ask for concrete information, both with a positive and constructive feedback. Because I think if somebody says to you, you did a great job hiring this person. Well, what did you do that was great? Was it the phone calls that you made? Was it the onboarding process? Give me a little bit more information so I can use those strengths in other ways. And similar to the constructive feedback, what can I do? Tell me a little bit of an example. How may I change it? How can I use my strengths to overcome it? So getting as much details as you can and recognizing that I truly think it's a gift to help you move further.
Got it. And I have a question that may or may not be related to some of the companies you've worked with, but companies more and more are going to, virtual engagement, digital engagement, where you're not sitting in an office and getting to know people in that same way. How have you helped people navigate finding sponsors or connecting with people in an organization that may be spread out all over or not have those same in-person details?
I love that question, and it is tough. First and foremost, you have to put more of an effort into it than you would if you're in the physical space with someone. So if you're in the physical space, you're never really going to walk into people in the hallway or the bathroom or to grab coffee. But if you're working virtually, I think it's really important for the team to come up with different strategies to work together. We can have really quick weekly meetings, and I'm talking with the camera and not just a phone, so you can actually see each other, creating those kind of spaces to share social information. So Facebook actually has a workplace function. So sharing exciting things that have happened in your life, virtual happy hours, have people expense lunch and come on that space. You have to make an active effort to be part of the conversation, to be part of sharing the progress you've made within programs and projects with your supervisor, so they know where you are, they know what you've completed, they know what it looks like. You have to put in that effort. And when people can see that, and when people can see your team, you're more likely to find a sponsor, because they'll say, oh, Julie's awesome. She was able to hand in this project on time and it was amazing. She was so excited during this meeting. So you have to just put in some effort for it.
Got it. And last question I have is if you're finding, whether it be a sponsor or a mentor, and how much of it should be just strictly business versus getting to know them as a person? Because I know that some people struggle with creating that connection and feeling like, well, I don't want to tell them all of my personal information, which I think is fine, but I also want to have a little bit more of a genuine connection with someone that's a little bit of both. How do you ever advise on that or anything around
I love your questions. You're such a good question asker. I think and to me, and I think it varies per person, but I truthfully want to get to know people I work with, or if they're mentors or sponsors. It's very hard. And I used to, when I was younger, when I graduated, I started at 21, I had my master's, and I was working with people, like students who were actually older than I was. And I essentially compartmentalized my personal Alyssa and my professional Alyssa. And that was so hard to do. And people want to get to know you for you. Maybe not every single detail of your life, but what did you do over the weekend? Who's important to you? Do you have any pets, or do you have any kids? I think that helps people also help you make decisions. So if somebody's a mentor and they're trying to help you with your next step, are you taking into consideration a move because you have children, or what do you want to do? There's so many other parts, and it just takes a little bit to kind of build that relationship. Instead of asking how are you, asking more open-ended questions, or what did you do this weekend, what are you most excited about this week. Start really engaging small to ask. And I also like to look at context clues, which is harder if you're in a virtual space, but look at people's desks. They have a picture of a dog. Did they get a new picture on their wall that somebody painted? Like, use
Great
that
idea.
questions. But just to, I don't know, I'm such a personable person, or try to be. I want to get to know you if I'm going to work with you or I'm going to mentor you in some way. What are your thoughts? I'm curious.
No, I think it's picking up on context clues, exactly what you said. So I love the idea of looking at their desk, even looking at their, what's on their phone, what's on their desk, what's in their car. I end up traveling with people all the time. What's important to them? What do they bring with them? Everyone asks the same, how was your weekend? How was your summer? But really saying, like, do you like to travel? Like, not just assuming they traveled and they went somewhere, or those kind of things, but, and then kind of having it shift into, and I think for me, it's reminding myself I can be a little bit too just business. So I'll jump right into the topic and what we're talking about. And I consciously make an effort to say, okay, the first question or two I'm going to ask in Monday morning, I have Monday morning calls with people. How was your weekend? How's your dog? How was your trip, or any of those things, just to make sure to make the conscious effort to make it a little bit more genuine. So thank you so much. I love your answers. Love the collaboration here. It's been excellent. I've learned a ton, things that I'm definitely going to take back. So if this is on my profile and you're following me, definitely follow Alyssa. She'll provide all the information. And we'll be able to continue to do this about topics that I know are not related to any specific industry, but something everyone's talking about. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Have an awesome day.
Absolutely. You too. Bye.